Well, highs of 26, lows of 16. Nice weather here in Nairobi, Kenya. I want to warmly welcome you to Prime Edition. We are at Broadcasting House in the capital. Good evening. My name is Mboya, our sign language interpreter. Tonight is Anu Wangeshi. The next 1 hour, loaded with old stories in the business and sports area, and it begins right now.
There is absolutely no reason why we cannot facilitate that person in Moyale or indeed in any part of Kenya to have a transaction of 5,000.
Encouraging a saving culture, President William Ruto orders National Treasury to reduce investable amount. How do we save you? Nakada releases worrying statistics on alcohol and substance abuse among the youth. County governments move to cushion residents in anticipation of the El Nino. There you are, our socials at KBC Channel 1, my ex at Tomboya24. Straight to our top story as they put the camera on. President William Ruto has directed the National Treasury to reduce the minimum investable amounts in government papers to 5,000 shillings from what it stands at currently, which is 50,000 shillings. The president says that the move will help to mobilize savings among the Kenyans. The president further wants mobile money users, including those without bank accounts, to be allowed to trade in government securities. President Ruto spoke during the launch of the Central Bank Securities Depository DAO, which was reduced the turnaround time from 14 days to just a few minutes. Here's that report.
The most secure investment option globally, investment in treasury bills and bonds has been a preserve of the moneyed and tech-savvy Kenyans.
I think there is space again to democratize that space better.
The minimum face value purchase for treasury bonds is pegged at 100,000 shillings, while the minimum investable amount for treasury bills is 50,000 shillings. President William Ruto says the lowering the minimum investable funds in government bills will help mobilize savings among Kenyans.
The DAO CSD is therefore expected to promote a well-functioning interbank market, capital market growth, market deepening, expansion of the digital access for broader financial inclusion, and position Kenya as the preferred financial hub in the region.
The Central Bank of Kenya's DAO CSD went live on the 31st of July this year, boosting the daily registration number to 250 CSDs accounts daily in comparison to 100 CSDs accounts that were initially opened monthly via the manual system.
The rollout of the DAO CSD by the Central Bank of Kenya is a great milestone, as it will not only enhance the operational efficiency of the government domestic debt program, but also support the deepening of the domestic capital market.
The web platform now offers a simple, efficient, and secure way that enables the public and the diaspora community to invest in government securities, reducing the time taken to apply for government securities from the current 14 days to minutes.
That is transformative. It has also given us an opportunity to digitize the whole of this space and to have a web-based, app-enabled mechanism of engaging with the whole space of our financial market, especially on the trading of treasury bills and treasury bonds.
However, for one to access the mobile investor portal, one is required to be of legal age and a registered active mobile subscriber locally.
I suspect that that person in Moyale may not necessarily have the 50,000, but they could be having 5,000. And because there is no requirement now for them to travel to Nairobi and they can transact on their phone, there is absolutely no reason why we cannot facilitate that person in Moyale or indeed in any part of Kenya to have a transaction of 5,000.
Once the president's directive comes to pass, even mobile money subscribers, as well as those who have no bank accounts, will be allowed to trade in government securities.
That means that you can tap into the securities market and earn an interest of around 10%. As CBK goes tech, so to speak. I'm Regina Manyara, reporting from the Central Business District for KBC Channel 1.
From that story at the Apex Bank to another one that has some disturbing figures. Alcohol is the most abused substance among the youth in Kenya. That's according to a survey conducted by the National Authority for the Campaign Against Drug Abuse. The statistics show that 367,608 youth aged between 15 and 24 consume alcohol, which is 5.2% of the Kenyan youth population. Kasichana Masha reports alcohol consumption is followed by smoking of tobacco, cannabis, chewing of khat or miraa if you like, and swallowing of prescription drugs, with over 2 million youth abusing at least one substance.
The youth dominate Kenya's population at approximately 13 million. Statistics released by the National Authority for the Campaign Against Drug Abuse shows that youth aged 15 to 24, which is 5.2% of the youth population, consume alcohol. Approximately 1.1 million of youth aged between 25 to 35 also abuse alcohol.
The truth is we have a problem in the country, and you've seen it by yourself. If you have over 4 million people using one drug or the other, or that are addicted, that is a major problem.
Journalism, where you go and investigate and get out these things which many people may not be privy to, and then tell it to the public, tell it to Kenyans. This will have a lot of impact.
The survey shows 230,130 youth aged 15 to 24 are abusing tobacco, followed by khat with 259,954, cannabis 193,430, prescription drugs 8,328, multiple drugs 267,454, and those who abuse at least one substance being 632,846. At the same time, youth aged 25 to 35 who abuse tobacco stands at 488,845, khat 388,735, cannabis 174,142, prescription drugs 19,112, multiple drugs 494,218, whereas 1.5 million youths use at least one substance. Nakada Board Chair Reverend Dr. Stephen Mairori says that concerted efforts are required in order to reduce the number of youth engaged in drug and substance abuse in the country.
That those of us who have been given the mandate to make sure that the supply of drugs and illicit alcohol in this country are doing their work. If you can help us push that agenda, that would be great.
Teenagers, they don't want to be left out. So if you say it in a manner that everybody else is using, and I am not, they have to look for it.
This, as Nakada, which is celebrating 22 years of existence, is also been urged to extend counseling service to institutions that are mainly dominated by young employees.
To achieve a healthy and sober society, it's upon me and you, and more interventions and collaborations for various entities. Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Kasichana Masha.
Well, Bootle is actually a town in England, and it's obviously hooked to the bottle and not Bootle. But let's move on to the next story. The National Dialogue Committee has taken issue with the remarks by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua calling for the scrapping of the agenda to audit the 2022 presidential election. The committee is instead urging all parties to submit their views through the technical committee for consideration. So far, 142 Kenyans have submitted their views to the committee. Our reporter, Abdiaziz Hashim, has the details of the committee sitting.
The National Dialogue Committee resumed its talks on Monday after a one-week break. And its order of business was to report on the progress so far, as Kenyans continue to submit their views to the technical committees.
The total number of memoranda that were received was as follows. hand delivered to Parliament buildings, 29, hand delivered at Bomas of Kenya, 5, via email, 121, none via the post, so a total of 155 submissions that we have received, less what we call the double submissions, where you find they have submitted 2 copies, 13, so we have a total of 142 memoranda.
The committee also took issue with the remarks by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua during his tour of Meru on Sunday.
We are serious about the work before us, and we have purposely decided to ignore external negative energy.
Chair of the Azimio team, Kalonzo Musyoka, urged all leaders to submit their views to the technical committee for consideration.
There is no constitutional provision for anybody to audit a general election. That audit was done by the Supreme Court and a decision was made, and you are declared validly elected and sworn in as the President of the Republic of Kenya. Sasa hii watu wakutane ati waongee ati uchaguzi ilienda namna gani? That, Your Excellency, we don't agree with, and we would like to ask that agenda to be dropped from those talks.
The committee is expected to conclude its sittings in 60 days and table its report to Parliament for debate.
They talked of a deadline, but we looked at that issue, say the committee is not going to be difficult on the timeline. If there are people who had not submitted the memoranda, they should feel free to do so.
Members of the National Dialogue Committee will once more converge at the Bomas of Kenya on Monday next week to discuss key issues, among them the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, in regards to its reconstitution, audit of the 2022 presidential election, as well as boundaries delimitation. Abdiaziz Hashim from Bomas of Kenya, Prime Edition.
Of course, we will be tracking and reporting on that story as it advances. Now, civil servants will get a salary increment of between 9 to 7%, or between 7 to 9%. This follows the signing of a collective bargaining agreement between the government on one side and the Union of Kenya Civil Servants. Principal Secretary, State Department for Public Service, Amos Gathesha, says that the first phase of implementation of the CBA will cost 1.13 billion shillings and will be backdated to the 1st of 2023. Another 1.12 billion shillings will be spent in the second phase, effective the 1st of July 2024.
These negotiations were based on the proposals that were raised by the union, and the government signed counter-proposal.
Through the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. So we shall be happy if that particular process is expedited, the document is registered on the Employment and Labor Relations Code, and we get a certificate of registration.
Salaries and house allowance, I want to appreciate your effort, and we have taken them the way you advised, and we'll move on with them. The thorn in our flesh now is on commute allowance, which we believe the current rate being paid to our members is irrelevant, because it's not.
The CBA therefore is based on a budget allocation of 1,135,408,744 and is effective from 1st of July 2023. The second phase will be based on a budget of this translates to about 9% of salary increment for the civil servants across the board. The second phase, which is coming next financial year, has a budget of 1,126,486,162, which will be effective from 1st of July 2024, which translates to about 7%.
course, that 1.13 billion shillings will be backdated to the first of the month of July and the year 2023. Now, 22 students have been cleared to travel to Finland for further studies, ending months of agony. The students are among hundreds of learners from Uasin Gishu County who accused the county government of foul play after they failed to travel despite depositing funds, prompting the national government to intervene. Speaking at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, Kenya, the student lauded the efforts of Uasin Gishu County government to help them achieve their dreams. Uasin Gishu Deputy Governor Engineer John Barorot says that the next cohort of 24 students will travel to Finland in 2 weeks' time.
Naenda kusomea practical nurse kwa shule ambayo inaitwa Gradia, ambayo inapatikana katika city ambayo inajulikana kama Jufashkula. Sisi ambao tulilipa ndio visa yetu imetoka. Kuna wale vilevile ambao huenda hawakuamini kwamba pesa ilifika shule na wakakataa kuongeza fedha zao.
Naenda Finland Jufashkula, naenda kusomea practical nursing ya shule inaitwa Gradia. Wengi wao hawakuweza ku-raise hiyo 600,000 na kuna wengine wenye kulikuwa na miscommunication na hawakuelewa the plan, the entire thing, ndio maana wako hapa.
Wale wenye walilipa pesa waliongeza hiyo pesa yenye ilikuwa ilihitajika, ndio majina yao yalitoka, na students walikuwa wanaona kwa portal vile visa ina count down.
Coming up, we dive deeper into tonight's coverage. Stay with us. I'll be back shortly.
Usiwe mtazamaji pekee, shiriki kwenye Lucky Game na pia wewe unaweza jishindia kama Sheila.
Nimeshinda TV 55 inch. Nimeshinda
na imefika star 570 hash. Chagua Lucky Game. Utapata sanduku 7 zinakungoja mahali pale. Choose one of the boxes ambayo unahisi kwamba iko na bahati yako. Cheza sasa hivi, mahali popote, wakati wowote. Kumbuka ni star 570 hash. Jishindie. Shinda pesa moto moto.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Mtoto ajui shida, laini, manzonzo umepitiliza. We baby, yo, shout out, you're watching Grapevine.
The Alliance Française, in conjunction with the France Embassy, organized an event dubbed Africa Climate Summit Special with climate-conscious artists. They're in constant pursuit of binding East African traditional music, Western experimental art music, and electronic club music. The day began with peaceful demonstrations by hundreds of activists from Nyayo Stadium to Green Park bus terminus, where they convened for the Africa People's Climate Assembly.
Wapi kidero when you need to slap somebody? Complain if it's hard.
Welcome back. Let's now look at the item on El Nino. County governments have set in motion strategies to prevent flooding during the much anticipated El Nino rains. In Nairobi County, Governor Johnson Sakaja announced the recruitment of 3,500 environmental officers who are mandated to clean and unclog the drainage system within the capital city and its environs.
Last week, the weatherman issued an El Nino alert. In anticipation of the phenomenon, county governments are working around the clock to ensure safety of residents. Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja says unclogging of drainage systems to prevent flooding will be prioritized.
The problem in Nairobi, those who used to do environmental work were last hired in the 80s. So they have, natural attrition. Some have passed on, some have retired. Many are above 55. They are old and they don't have the energy. And so we needed to employ environmental officers who can now come, who are younger, between 18 and 28, who can come in and do that work.
On possible landslides and floods, especially in informal settlements, Sakaja says unsafe areas and buildings are being mapped out to facilitate timely evacuation before calamity strikes.
As we monitor, when it gets close to that very heavy rainfall, we'll move them either to churches, we'll move them to our halls, our social halls, and we'll have to feed them when they're there. We have to provide for them food, mattresses, we have to provide blankets, but we hope it doesn't have to get to that.
Also in the works is an emergency toll-free number for Nairobi residents to call in case of an El Nino emergency. In Mombasa, the county government is also cleaning and unclogging all the drainage systems in areas which experience flooding during the normal rainy season.
We can confirm that as we're speaking right now, an area like Utange has been worked on. As we are speaking right now, there are going to be contracts, adverts that are going to be issued very soon for the areas of Bomu.
During the official launch of the Social Innovation Center, dubbed IOMI 001, graced by the French ambassador to Kenya, Arnold Sukwet, the Kenya Red Cross Society Secretary General Dr. Idris Ahmed appealed to donors and well-wishers to avail resources early enough for timely interventions.
We'll be prepared as well in the event that we will need to be in a position to vacate people, those who are in the low-lying areas as well, and especially areas that have not been, that are not formal houses per se.
The Kenya Meteorological Department says above average rain is expected in various parts of the country in the months of October, November and December. According to the forecast, floods, post-harvest losses and displacement of communities are expected. For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
Now, stakeholders in the health sector have drafted 4 legislative proposals that, if enacted into law, will provide efficiency in service delivery and safeguard personal health data. The proposed bills constitute vital components of a broader strategy aimed at advancing universal healthcare coverage in line with Kenya Vision 2030.
Stakeholders from health sector led by Ministry of Health met in Nairobi to discuss legislative proposals that seek to support universal health coverage in the country. They concluded drafting of 4 bills that, if enacted, will see establishment of a comprehensively funded primary healthcare system that includes promotion, preventive, curative, palliative and rehabilitative services.
The other thing that is important is a prevention agenda, because prevention agenda is a main agenda for this government. And why it's a main agenda is because the way we have been working and addressing the healthcare needs of Kenyans is we wait for them to get sick, then we treat them. It is a firefighting system. Now, what we are trying to do with this primary healthcare bill is move from firefighting to fire protection.
The Ministry of Health is spearheading digital transformation within the sector as part of efforts to achieve universal health coverage.
The data governance framework says that all health data in Kenya is a national strategic asset. So all health data should at some point find itself in the national data bank in the form of the minimum data set, And that's what we're calling the shared health record.
What we are saying is that the digital ecosystem is interconnecting the households, the facilities, and all the aspects of the healthcare system to make sure that it's possible to to interact seamlessly between the payer, between the provider, between the patient, between any other player that is working within the healthcare ecosystem. So that is why the digitization component becomes very important.
If approved by Parliament, the Primary Healthcare Bill, Digital Health Bill, Facility Improvement Financing Bill and Social Health Insurance Bill 2023 will effectively result in the dissolution of the National Health Insurance Fund.
So we are separating the functions of the NHIF as we transit to the new entity, so that the old bad practices of the current NHIF are not transferred to the new entity. And there is separation of functions to make sure that each person have, each entity, the new entity, is able to perform what it is strategically supposed to perform.
The 4 bills will be tabled in Parliament.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has moved to the Court of Appeal in Mombasa, seeking a review of its ruling that granted Housing Finance Company of Kenya Limited 3 parcels of prime land belonging to Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. In its appeal for the review, ESCC cites it has new information that should be considered. The 3 parcels of land under contention are part of 5 parcels cumulatively worth 150 million shillings, and that's according to ESCC. The land was illegally, corruptly and fraudulently hived off from KBC land in Mombasa. Anburu with the details.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says it has moved to the Court of Appeal in Mombasa for a review of a case that resulted in KBC losing ownership of 3 parcels of land. In the suit filed under certificate of urgency before the Mombasa Court of Appeal, EACC is now seeking for the review of the case and a suspension of the earlier judgment taking ownership from KBC. According to EACC, investigations have revealed that the KBC land was illegally allocated to a private company called Kensco Agro Produce Limited, which subdivided it into 5 parcels, 3 of which were transferred to HFCK and 2 retained by the private entity. The private company owners put the land into use by running a restaurant. However, there is a civil suit for the recovery of the 2 plots pending before the Mombasa Environment and Land Court, where EACC has since obtained orders prohibiting any activity or transactions on the land until the recovery case is heard and determined. From Mombasa County, I am Anburu.
Into the corridors of justice now, 66 Shakahola cult suspects will be detained for a further 30 days. The Shanzu Magistrate Court in Mombasa ordered that they remain in custody after the Probation and Career Office requested for more time to finish compiling its report. More details in the Scales of Justice segment with Michael Mwandiga.
Kwa sababu sio sisi ambao tumefanya ama tunawasihi wasizungumze na probation.
According to the Probation Office, they managed to interview 63 of the 66 suspects. The Probation Office, led by Wycliffe Wadhome, told the court most of the suspects were not originally from Mombasa, with one being a foreigner, presenting a challenge in accessing their families for further information. In seeking an extension, the Probation Office said they had only managed to undertake home inquiries on 20 families.
Hata nikiondoka nitakuwa namuuliza ama nauliza watumishi wao, kwa sababu mfanya wao watusaidie pia, kwa sababu wanaweza kuwa wanajua jamii zao, jamaa zao, wachangie pia kurahisisha hii kazi yetu.
While delivering the ruling, Senior Principal Magistrate Yusuf Shikanda said it will be unwise to decline to grant the Probation Office more time to present its full report to the court.
Na sababu ambayo ilifanya koti ikaitisha hizo ripoti, kwa hiyo itakuwa si jambo la busara tukiwafungia nje kwamba wasilete hizo ripoti, maana hizo ripoti pia zitasaidia mahakama katika kufikia uamuzi wa haki.
The matter will be mentioned on 11th of October 2023. Elsewhere, a Milimani Law Court has released 2 suspects on bail, namely Zablon Washira Isaac and Victor Kaburu Mugambi. The duo are charged with 3 counts, 2 of stealing and another for handling stolen items, including a camera valued at 500,000 shillings. The duo pleaded not guilty to the charges before Senior Principal Magistrate Dolphina Alego and was released on Kenya shillings 500,000 bond or cash bail of 200,000 shillings. The case will be mentioned on 25th of September the year 2023. 3 men were also charged with 1 count of trespassing. The trio, Frederick Muruka, Christopher Kinuthia, and Stephen Mbugwa Kinuthia, are accused of trespassing into NIS headquarters on 8th of September 2023. They denied the charges and were released on 100,000 shillings bond each with 1 contact or cash bail of 50,000 shillings. They will be remanded at the Industrial Area Prison. Michael Mondiga for Prime Edition.
He served as President Daniel Moi's 2nd vice president and the 5th vice president since independence. This week on the cabinet, we focus on Dr. Josephat Karanja, who left his position as the vice chancellor of University of Nairobi to join active politics.
Dr. Josephat Karanja was the 2nd vice president to serve under Moi and the 5th since independence. Before moving his political base to Mathare, Karanja tried vying for the Githunguri parliamentary seat twice without success. At the time, the seat was occupied by Arthur Magogo. The opportunity for Karanja to win a seat in Parliament presented itself when the Mathare Member of Parliament went into exile in Sweden. Once he won the election, the way was clear for Moi to appoint him vice president in place of Kibaki. In 1988, President Daniel Arap Moi picked him to replace Mwai Kibaki as Vice President of the Republic of Kenya. Karanja occupied the VP position briefly between 1988 and 1989. He was replaced by another university don, Professor George Saitoti. Karanja was an accomplished educationist and diplomat of high standing who had lived abroad. At age 33, he had become the country's first and youngest High Commissioner to Britain, a post he held between 1964 and 1970. Britain was then the most important economic partner of Kenya, its former colony. He then became Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nairobi at age 40, replacing Dr. Arthur Porter. In 1970 to 1979, Dr. Karanja served as the first Vice-Chancellor at the University of Nairobi. Karanja is remembered for his tenure at the university, a period referred to as the heydays of the university, during which black student enrollment increased by large numbers. His liberal and Western inclination opened the university to many changes, including encouraging women to acquire higher education. In 1992, Karanja moved back to his home constituency of Githunguri and won the parliamentary seat. In 1993, Karanja was arrested and arraigned on charges of inciting the public against the government. He died on 28 February 1994 at the age of 63. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Well, we now cross over and look at the day's business. We will be looking at the items including power cost and also digitizing petty cash with my colleague Betty Kipton.
Thank you, Tom. Well, it's not much good news for Kenyans. Kenya Power is saying we'll continue paying high prices for power, unfortunately. Well, now let's get the latest in the world of business. My name is Betty Kiptum, and we start with that story on electricity. Kenyans will continue to pay more for power due to the heavy investment that is going into generation, transmission, distribution of electricity, even as the country transitions to clean energy. Kenya Power Managing Director Joseph Siror says consumers are paying 30 shillings per kilowatt-hour, which is relatively high, but as the country moves to retire expensive thermal plants, the cost of power will come down.
Kenya's current installed capacity is at 3,162 megawatts with a peak demand of 2,169 megawatts as of June 2023. The country is tweaking its energy mix in favor of more renewable and green energy. About 93% of the national grid is produced from renewable energy, including geothermal, wind and hydro energy. The government aims to transition power generation to 100% clean and affordable sources by 2030 through public-private partnerships.
We have private sector participation, especially in the generation front. All the new PPAs which are being signed, the power purchase agreements, the last one to be signed of thermos was 2012. That is 11 years ago. So this is really an intentional direction. It's not accidental, and we'll continue seeing that percentage increasing with the passage of time.
Kenya Power Managing Director Joseph Sirol revealed that consumers are paying more for electricity due to the heavy investment that goes into generation, transmission, distribution, and retailing of power, adding that investors have to recoup their monies.
If you look at some of these investments, they are going to benefit the country for many decades to come. So that is to say that you've invested now, but in not long from now, that investment will be recovered. And at the point when that investment will be recovered, then of course there is that hope that the costs are going to come down.
He says to make electricity more affordable to Kenyans, the country needs to speed up efforts to displace expensive and dirty thermal power from the grid. Power is currently retailing at 30 shillings per kilowatt-hour, which Sirol admits is relatively high as compared to some other countries.
These thermal plants, and of course in their place we have the geothermal, or rather the green resources, which are cheaper. We foresee a situation where they are no longer going to be dispatched, and thus the costs are actually going to come down. So yes, it is true, relatively you could say it is expensive, but again, if you look at other parts of the country, or rather the world, there are places where per kilowatt hour is about 80 cents of a dollar.
Weri Mujenga for Prime Edition.
Now, businesses can enhance the management of their petty cash by embracing digital payment solutions. These will help them improve their operational efficiency and safeguard against embezzlement of funds. This is after TenderPay announced the deployment of its platform to empower enterprises of all sizes, from small businesses to large corporations, to efficiently oversee and maintain the balance of their petty cash on a regular basis.
According to the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, embezzlement of cash at hand is the second highest form of employee theft. ACFE says employee theft costs firms across the globe 5% of annual sales, amounting to billions of dollars lost each year. The traditional manual methods of handling petty cash are not only time-consuming, but also prone to errors and mismanagement. TenderPay has launched a solution to address these concerns, which enables decision makers to remotely control their business by giving them a 360-degree view of the business operations. The platform also enables business owners or managers to control petty cash payments by providing multiple approval levels.
So some of the pain points is something like a distorted payment. So you'll find that there are so many avenues in which people tend to be able to pay petty cash. There's cash, there are other mobile money. So you find that TenderPay can be able to kind of give you one place where you disperse the payments. The high transaction cost that actually comes in between, sending these payments and the theft around the whole process. So as TenderPay, we try as much as possible to be very affordable when sending out these transactions, even if it's digitally. So we try to reduce this cost for the clients.
The platform offers SMEs and corporates the flexibility of overseeing use and dispensation of petty cash from any location.
Traditionally, the petty cash management system was very cumbersome. you'll find that people, had to tie in receipts. You have to kind of put journals aside. Money was removed from the place where business is put in terms of their revenue, and when it's removed and given to someone else, you find that the distortion of how this money is distributed becomes very difficult. So Tendepe has been able to come and made this whole process and digitalize this whole process.
The latest report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that over 400,000 micros, small and medium enterprises, which create 80% of employment in Kenya, hardly survived for 2 years due to financial mismanagement, among other reasons.
We are trying as a company to be able to make sure that this platform is available to everyone and everyone understands how it can be able to help them in their business. We have customers who do construction, we have hotels and bars, we have the oil industry companies working with us, schools, and it's not limited to some certain type of people. I think we've really mentioned that it is really SME, so no matter how small an SME is.
Usiwe mtazamaji pekee, shiriki kwenye Lucky Game na pia wewe unaweza jishindia kama Sheila.
Nimeshinda TV 55 inch. Nimeshinda
na imefika star 570 hash. Chagua Lucky Game. Utapata sanduku 7 zinakungoja mahali pale. Choose one of the boxes ambayo unahisi kwamba iko na bahati yako. Cheza sasa hivi mahali popote wakati wowote. Kumbuka ni star 570 hash. Jishindie. Shinda pesa moto moto.
Gerardo is following you. My mother ordered him to do it.
What?
Apparently, Anibal is worried about you, and he asked my mother to follow you to protect you from the Molinas.
Do you have any idea how long he's been following me? It's because of Danielle. I really can't stop myself from loving him, Isabel. No matter how hard I try, I can't.
You're crazy, you know. You are very crazy. If you think that you can compare yourself with Isabel, she is way more better than you are in every aspect, and I love her.
I swear, Anibal.
What?
I swear you're going to regret this! What in the world was she doing at the sawmill? Did she go there to see Danielle? Pero que no más.
Thank you for staying with Prime Edition. This is Business News. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, Kenya plans to increase its direct foreign investments from China by 10% by December this year. So far, the investment from China stands at 40 billion shillings in the last 8 months. Kenya Investment Authority Managing Director June Chepkemei says the upcoming Kenya International Industrial Expo, slated for the 21st to 23rd of this month here in Nairobi, provides an opportunity for Kenya and China to deepen their bilateral collaborations.
China is Kenya's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade rising rapidly from $186.37 million in 2002 to $5.3 billion in 2018. Kenya's trade deficit recently reached $7 billion due to the significant investment, trade deals, and developmental assistance it received from China. In a bid to expand new trade prospects between the two nations, Kenya is planning to increase its direct foreign investments from China by 10%.
The trade volume currently is valued at USD 5.3 billion. China has continued to purchase more Kenya agricultural products, especially avocado, which increasingly become attractive to Chinese consumers.
Kenya Investment Authority Managing Director John Chepkemei says it will be utilized by the business-to-business and business-to-consumer connections at exhibitions.
So the ones that have come to Kenya Invest directly, for the past eight months, we've registered a total of 178 projects in the country, and during with the capital outlay of 77 billion Kenya shillings. Out of this, the foreign component amounted to 46 billion and 31 billion for local components.
Kenya will host the International Industrial Expo at Sarit Center with a focus on boosting climate-smart industrial practices.
We are going to look at those opportunities. With our office in China, there is already an expression of interest to attract China investors in the tourism sector. We are also looking at tourist agents in China who can be able to bring tourists to Kenya. So that is what we are doing as Kenya National Chamber of Commerce.
The expo will showcase the latest advancements in clean energy, resource efficiency, and sustainable manufacturing processes, setting the stage for a future where industries can thrive without harming the planet. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
Farmers have been advised to harvest their crop before the start of the expected El Nino rains in October. Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization is engaging maize farmers on the harvesting process before the rain starts to allow for drying of maize and protect the produce from aflatoxin.
The weatherman's warning of above average rain expected in various parts of the country in the next 3 months is now causing jitters among farmers, with many wary of expected floods and post-harvest losses. The Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization has now launched a campaign to mobilize farmers to start harvesting.
If we don't harvest in good time, we are going to lose that crop. So we've been sending messages to farmers to tell them to prepare to harvest their crops as soon as they are ready because of the El Nino that we are expecting.
CalRO is targeting to reach over 5 million farmers on their database in a bid to protect the produce from aflatoxin.
If the rains start in October all the way to December, that's the harvesting season normally. So as an organization, we have given them information to be able to harvest early, dry, because if you harvest maize when it is wet, you get a lot of aflatoxin contamination, which is a very high risk.
Kiregere spoke in Naivasha during the launch of the 3.5 billion shillings World Bank National Agricultural Value Chain Development Project, targeting 16 sectors, among them dairy, poultry, avocado and rice, seeking to address the challenges in marketing and value addition.
Our main support will be provision of our technologies through either planting materials, livestock breeds, and of course training on best management, training on value addition.
We are going to make sure that our centers and our CalRO seeds is going to increase the production of seeds to ensure that these seeds is actually farmers, when they require the seed, when they demand the seed, it will be available.
Trevor Ngindo for Prime Edition.
And that's all the business news we had for you this evening. Prime Edition continues. Daniel Wahome is standing by on this other side of the studio. From myself and the business desk, to have yourself a good night. I'm Betty Kiptum. Daniel Wahome, take it away.
Thank you very much, Betty. And in the news today, let's start with the Harambee Stars, where Captain Michael Lunga says the team is ready to continue with their winning run when they face South Sudan in a friendly match tomorrow at the Kasarani Stadium. Olunga led the team in the last training session at the Kasarani Stadium. This evening, they train at 6 p.m.
Whenever, of course, you play against your neighbors, it's always a difficult game. So we expect quite a difficult game. We know they have quite athletic players. Physicality also will play a key role in the game, and there are different kind of opponents from the Qatari, so we have to shift quite a different kind of strategies. And I believe this taking into factor, I believe maybe the fielded players who will have the right qualities to begin the game tomorrow will be ready, to give a good performance. But generally, we are optimistic for a positive result.
Tomorrow it's a totally different match. We are playing against a rival with young players, but they're running like crazy, and they defend like crazy. It is not easy to open them. So we need to be patient. And like I said, some players again missing. So we will play for sure in a different structure.
The coach is trying to assemble a team of youthful players and experienced players. He's trying to give local players as well opportunities, like he said in his previous interviews. So it's a combination of a blended mixture of experience and youth, but we are still not yet there. But like you've said, it was a good performance to see the team playing some beautiful quality football. But we are not being carried away from this. We still have a long way to go.
These are the matches where the boys can show that they can close this gap, and I have to see what will go on. So therefore, for me, tomorrow is most important from what I expect from them, to be patient, to pass well, so that we get our chances and hopefully also the result.
Now, the national wrestling team intensified preparations ahead of the forthcoming World Championship slated for the 14th to the 26th of September in Serbia. Kenya is expected to field wrestlers in a total of 13 weight categories at the championship, which will act as qualifiers for the 2024 Paris Olympic Games.
The Kenyan team of 13 members consisting 9 men and 4 ladies upped their preparations with just 3 days to the World Championship in Serbia. The wrestlers earned loss at the World Games after the impressive showing at this year's Africa Championship in Tunisia, where Kenya collected 3 bronze medals and 1 silver. The Kenyan team of 13 members consisting 9 men and 4 ladies upped their preparations with just 3 days to the World Championship due in Serbia. The wrestlers earned slots at the World Games after the impressive showing at this year's Africa Championship in Tunisia, where Kenya collected 3 bronze medals and 1 silver.
My last preparation, we were in Tunisia last month, and there I really fought very well. I fought very well up to bronze. Hapo ndio nilitolewa tu kidogo tu, but this time round I'm sure, and according to our training here, it's telling me more about vile nime work hard and I'm ready. This time round I'll never let my coaches down and myself.
I'm an African champion. I'm 2 kgs freestyle, so now I'm going to the world. I've been to the Africa, I'm going to the world. Nothing less than a medal.
Head coach Linus Machete expressed optimism of the squad registering impressive performance in Serbia.
Inatokana chinzi championship ambazo kwamba tumeshabidia, sababu tumekuwa kwa African Championships, tumepata medals, tumekuwa kwa pitch games, medals zimekuja. Kwa hivyo tuko na matarajio makubwa. Huu ni mchezo mkubwa kwa sababu huu mchezo huu tunaweza ulinganisha na Olympic Games, kwa sababu wenye wanashiriki kwa hii mchezo still ndio bado watakuwa kwa Olympics. Na kwa sababu hii ni one part of qualification ya Olympics, so we are not taking it for granted. Tuko tayari kufanya hii kazi.
Machete's counterpart Peter Onyango said the preparations the squad has had, including a 2-week coaching course in Tunisia earlier this year, will greatly boost their chances of attaining their targets.
We learned new methodologies, new styles. Like for example, me as a coach, I was sent to Tunisia. I went there for a duration, and I was taught on how to teach my people new wrestling styles. It was hard, it was tough. For you to be a coach, you were being trained as a player first. So they are hard on you so that you become hard on our players.
Medal hopeful and third ranked in his 74 kilograms category globally, Mahabila Matayo believes his recent showing in Africa Championship, where he won a bronze, is a great boost to his confidence ahead of the World Games.
Imenipatia motisha, motivation, so at least pia tena imenipatia worry, kwa sababu wale pia wamejua wanaenda kupatana na bingwa huko Afrika kutoka Kenya mwenye alipata bronze, so pia wamejiandaa, lakini ananipatia morali na at least motivate wale ambao wako nyuma yangu, na pia mimi ananipatia morali, najua nafikia mbele kiwango.
Kenya will be outed to returning to the Olympic Games for the first time since 1988 in Seoul, a feat that Machete, a member of the Kenyan squad at the 88 Games, believes is achievable. The traveling team is expected to be named on Tuesday ahead of their departure. Bernard Okumu, Prime Edition Sports.
Now, a group of upcoming footballers drawn from Porter School benefited from a one-day football coaching clinic conducted by visiting football coaches from Barcelona, Spain. The 2 coaches, Marc Miguel and Javi Perez, have conducted similar training in 4 other schools in the country.
Over 50 youngsters aged between 9 to 13 years benefited from the football training, which seeks to enable them engage their minds while enjoying playing football.
We want to enjoy with soccer, we want to play with soccer, but we also want them to think, taking decisions, because it's all about human beings. They can take it from the sport, thinking, and trying to learn as much as possible.
The training, Shabi says, seeks to instill self-confidence and also to the budding talent.
The level I want to get to is pro level, a professional footballer, and I thank the coaches, Coach Gilbert and Coach Shadrach, for helping us train and giving us good equipment.
Taught me so far passing and teamwork and skilling.
We've really been trying to grow the sports in our school as much as we can and expose our children to as much experience in the field of soccer as we could. So one of the benefits we've had a group, the group come from Spain to come to the local teams around, and we are happy because they get more technical training, and apart from what is locally available in our school, the children are able to get more experience from experts who deal with international teams.
The training, Shabi adds that it seeks to instill self-confidence to the budding talents. Mike Miguel, who holds a UEFA Air license and in partnership with Shabi, seeks to promote collaboration of football knowledge sharing.
We want to share the knowledge, and more important than sometimes people forget, we also want to learn from what do other people do in other countries.
Now, still on football is that the national women's soccer team, the Harambee Stars, are set to leave the country on Wednesday for Yaoundé, where they will face host Cameroon in the 2024 Women Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. The return leg will be played in Nairobi on the 26th of this month.
Harambee Stars have today started their training ahead of the two-legged 2024 Women Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, where they will face Cameroon. The team is set to depart for Cameroon on Wednesday for the first leg match set to be played on Friday in Yaoundé. Starlets will fly back home on Saturday in time for their second leg match on Tuesday. Should Harambee Starlets be the aggregate winners of the two-legged qualifier, they will face Gabon or Botswana in the second round between November 27th and December 5th. The victor of the second round will secure automatic qualification for the 2024 Africa Women's Cup of Nations to be hosted in Morocco. Faith Akinyi for Prime Edition.
Now, 24-year-old Jeremiah Wahome racked up his second career Kenya National Rally Championship victory following a brilliant display at the Mombasa round with a cumulative time of 2 hours, 12 minutes, 12 seconds. Youngster Wahome running in a Ford Fiesta navigated by home driver Victor Okundi, who previously represented Kenya in the AFIA Rally Championship as well as Safari's WRC category, beat Jaspreet Chana by 1 minute and 19 seconds to move to second position on the KNRC log. Saman Vohra, driving a Skoda Fabia Rally 2, won the Clubman Rally category in blistering pace, bouncing back on Sunday morning after a poor display on Saturday.
Long and bumpy. We had a few challenges along the way. Our intercom stopped working, so we couldn't hear each other, but good thing we had done the stage before, so we were able to find communication methods that worked. But fun in the end. We managed to come out with a victory. It's been very hot, but yeah, we're just glad to be here at the end of the day. We drove well, overcame the challenges, and just looking to build on the good performances.
Actually, Jeremiah Wahome is talking about no intercom for 44 kilometers. That's crazy in rallying. Now, across our borders, the goals from Cody Gakpo and Wout Weghorst helped the Netherlands complete a dramatic 2-1 comeback win over the Netherlands in the Euro 2024 qualifiers. Meanwhile, Greece stunned Gibraltar 5-0 in an
It's Gakpo. Bazunu went the right way.